Congressman Swalwell's attorney, Elias Dabaie, joins us live now from Los Angeles exclusively. Thank you so much for joining us. CNN gave Congressman Swalwell multiple opportunities to respond on camera to Pamela's reporting. I invited him to join us live tonight. He just posted that video online. But why won't he join us to answer the questions directly?
Well, let me start by telling you that we take these allegations very seriously. The congressman categorically denies any misconduct took place, and we intend to vindicate his rights in court.
So when you say that you take them seriously, are you suggesting, and what he just said there was that he made mistakes between me and my wife, I apologize to her deeply. Is he saying that he cheated on his wife but didn't do anything illegal?
I'm not going to get into the details of that. Our investigation is ongoing. A lot of it is privileged. But I can tell you, based on the video that you just played, the congressman takes accountability for potential lapses in judgment, but again, categorically denies any wrongdoing. So
your investigation is ongoing. Why isn't he here, though, to answer those questions? You didn't answer that question. Why isn't he putting himself out there to answer the questions directly?
Well, he has a campaign to run. He's busy. He's taking these allegations seriously. And again, as he told you in that video, he's spending time with his family and his wife and his friends, and that's his choice.
So there are now 4 different women who accuse Congressman Swalwell of sexual misconduct. Is your position that all of them are lying?
Look, as an attorney, I look at credibility, I look at motive, and I have to question the timing of these allegations 25 days out from an election. Many of these allegations are from women who claim that the wrongdoing took place many years ago. And in those years, the evidence I've seen demonstrates that these women, certain of them, have reached out to the congressman on multiple occasions, wishing him nothing but the best, supporting his campaign, saying that they'd vote for him for governor, asking for references for jobs, attending social events with him. So from my perspective, looking at the facts, I do have to question the credibility of these allegations.
You know that there's a long history and a lot of evidence of sexual assault experts who say that the victims often go back to the perpetrators and that is frequently a thing. So just because they went back and continued a relationship with him, everything they're saying is not true?
I'm telling you that I'm assessing the credibility of the claims that are being made, the timing of the allegations, and it raises eyebrows.
But there is evidence. I mean, in Pam's piece, she showed a note from a physician's assistant that called her a survivor. She had an STD pregnancy testing. We talked to family and friends she confided in. We saw text messages from the time. That was way before he was running for governor, at a time when she believed in him as a candidate and as a congressperson.
I'd prefer not to get into those.
That was all cooked up years ago?
I'd prefer not to get into those details at this time, but I can say that those text messages were sent by someone who was in a relationship at the time and may have had her own motives.
What does that mean?
The investigation is ongoing, and I do plan on vindicating the congressman's rights.
So the Democratic leader of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, is calling for a swift investigation in the House, where the congressman is still a member. Is Congressman Swalwell prepared to testify under oath that he never had sexual relations with any staffer?
That's something that we have not looked at yet. I'm hearing this now for the first time, and I'm not prepared to give you a response.
So he is not prepared to testify under oath before a House Ethics Commission?
That's not what I said. I said I have not discussed that.
So he's willing to testify under...
I didn't say either one of those. I said that I have not discussed that with the congressman, and that's something that we will look at.
So there is a growing list of Swalwell's friends and colleagues who had endorsed him for governor, but now say that they are pulling their endorsement. That includes Congressman Jimmy Gomez and Senator Adam Schiff, who were campaign co-chairs. They now say he should drop out. Is Eric Swalwell still running for governor of California tonight?
As of this moment, yes, he is. He intends to continue his campaign. Yes, very much so. The notion that all these people, the notion that all these people pulled their support, I suspect that there are political machinations behind the scenes explaining why the Democratic Party has decided to try to consolidate the vote in order to make sure that a Democratic candidate makes it past the primary. So I'm not surprised to see that.
That doesn't make any sense. That's one thing if we're talking about the candidates that are running against him. These are people who endorsed him. These are some of his best friends in Congress. Ruben Gallego, one of his closest friends. Jimmy Gomez, who he asked to chair the campaign. People who have made commercials for him saying go out and vote for him. They are now saying on the record that he should drop out. Many of them saying they believe the women, not him. I mean, why are they all lying? What is their motivation in this? And why is he not listening to his best friends in Congress?
People are free to make their choices. I think that this might be an example of a rush to judgment. We have not seen any evidence to support these allegations, and people are rushing to judgment. That's their choice.
Why have none of Swalwell's closest allies come out tonight to back him up?
It's early in the night. That might change.
So Swalwell said to at least one of the women that he wanted to take their conversations to Snapchat. Why? Why would he want to communicate with disappearing messages with younger individuals that he's interacting with in a professional capacity?
Well, I haven't seen any evidence that ever took place.
Well, okay. Hopefully we can provide that to you later, but at least
I'll look forward to seeing the evidence.
So several of the women received cease and desist letters. They have now spoken out. Do you plan on prosecuting or going forward with legal action against the women?
We are looking at the evidence, and that is something that we are taking very seriously. These allegations were made anonymously. We triangulated sources, and we were able to identify who was making these claims. We believe that these claims are false, and once we had enough information to determine who was making them, we sent cease and desist letters, and we're now looking at all available legal options. Yes.
When is Eric Swalwell going to be back on the campaign trail?
That's not clear. He's taking time with his family right now, and that's a decision for him to make.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and talking with us, and we look forward, hopefully, to having the opportunity to talk with him as well. Elias Dabaie, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.